Hi guys, it's Allie. Welcome to another Time Travel Tuesday where we combine tingles and nostalgia as decided by you. So, as most of you probably know by now, this week's Time Travel Tuesday is going to be all about Star Wars. And I have some pretty cool items to share with you while telling you about what I know about Star Wars. I want to share these with you real quick. These are very reflective for one thing. These are the first 3 films in the original trilogy on, you can see that laser disc. These are not super common, and I'm really excited that I have these to share with you today. They're on loan from a good friend, to whom I'm very grateful for letting me borrow them for this video. And he's a big Star Wars fan, obviously. But before I get started on this week's Time Travel Tuesday, I'm going to let you know ahead of time that this week I will not be holding a vote for next week's Time Travel Tuesday. And here's my reason. Every once in a while, something really cool comes into my possession that I want to share with you guys, and that happened this week. I was given something really neat and really special, and also something that will be awesome for a Time Travel Tuesday video. So for that reason, I won't hold a vote. I'm going to just do sort of a surprise. I'm going to surprise you guys with what I'll be talking about next week. So, you're welcome to, instead of voting in the comments, you're welcome to have a guess at what I'll be talking about, because it will be a nostalgic topic. But yeah, no vote this week. Okay, so let's just jump straight into it. I'm going to tell you some cool facts about the Star Wars franchise. Now I'm going to be focusing mostly on the original trilogy. Maybe, I don't think I really have anything to share with you about the newer trilogy. Not really. And I'm sure that's how most of you would want it. Real quick, I want to tell you a little bit about this laser disc, though. This was a technology that came out in late 70s, I think. And this is, it's kind of just like a giant DVD, sort of. And it's also kind of like it's just sort of like a big CD or a big DVD. But it kind of is packaged like a vinyl record. And this is a technology that came out but never really took off. They had big hopes for it, but it didn't really catch on in the US, at least. It did fairly well in Japan, I think. But it was, it was the best quality sort of technology out there for watching films at the time. Quality was much higher than VHS. But it didn't do very well, just because the players for laserdiscs were extremely expensive. Excuse me. So it just wasn't very accessible, so it didn't do very well. So it's really cool to come across the Star Wars movies on Laserdisc. I'm really excited I have these to show you. I would say these are collectibles. Okay. This is the first one, yeah. This is the first film, A New Hope. And I find this cover to be just a little bit misleading as far as how Leia and Luke are dressed. Whatever. Okay. Star Wars. Star Wars is what's what they call, well, it's American, and it's what they call an epic space opera, which I like. So yes, it's an American epic space opera franchise that is mostly centered around the Star Wars films. And that is a film series that was created by George Lucas. The films, the original trilogy, star Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, and Carrie Fisher. Now there is a lot more to the franchise than just films, and all the other stuff is what's sort of known as the expanded universe, and that includes books, TV series, comic books, computer games, video games, all kinds of stuff. I'll give you a very brief summary of the story. Probably the briefest summary you'll ever hear. Or I'll try to anyway. So, the sort of overarching storyline is there is this sort of oppressive empire that is sort of trying to take over basically the galaxy. And there is, of course, an opposing force called the Rebel Alliance. They are trying to stop the Empire from carrying out all their evil deeds. But sort of beneath that whole umbrella of a storyline, you have the focus is on the main character, Luke Skywalker, and his sort of adventures becoming a Jedi and opposing the Sith Lord Darth Vader. And he encounters Princess Leia and Han Solo, who is not pictured on this. He's on the back. And the sort of thing that is binding it all together is what's known as the Force. And the Force is, I believe Obi-Wan described it as an energy field that, how does he energy field that's created by all living things, and it binds the galaxy together. So you have a Jedi, and then you have, the Sith, who are basically just like bad Jedi. And they're both sort of harnessing the power of the Force. But Jedi are doing so for good, and the Sith are not. They're using sort of they're on the dark side of the Force. Yep. Okay, so I guess that wasn't a super short synopsis, but at least you get the idea. Okay, so here are some fun facts and interesting trivia mystery. Let's take this out. So, George Lucas's original script ended up being about 200 pages long. So, and he didn't want to condense it down. He didn't want to lose any story. So, instead he decided to just focus on the first third of the script. And then make that into a film. And then sort of do the other 2/3 of the film, or of the script, in 2 subsequent films, which is what he did. But originally that was all one sort of big script, one big movie. Now, there's an actor by the name of David Prowse. And David Prowse is the actor who played Darth Vader. Now, he only played the physical form of Vader. The deep, sort of commanding voice that we all associate with Lord Vader is the voice of James Earl Jones. But David Prowse was the body of Vader. Now, there's also one more Vader, and that is the man who was beneath the mask when Vader was finally unmasked. That man's name, I believe, was Sebastian Shaw. But anyway, let's get back to David Prowse, because he's got an interesting story. David Prowse had sort of a unique thing going on, in that he was allegedly I don't know if it's confirmed, but according to him, he was told that he would be seen and heard in the final cuts of the films. But obviously he wasn't. But he worked out something interesting in his contract. Instead of being paid a salary like most of the other actors, he agreed to, I think he agreed to get like a percentage of the film's net. What am I trying to say? Basically the money that the film made. He agreed to be paid a percentage of that instead of collecting a salary. If I'm not mistaken, to this day, David Prowse has not been paid for his work as Darth Vader. And the reason for that is a really interesting one. In Hollywood, they do something called, sort of nicknamed Hollywood accounting. And it's sort of a way of movie makers to kind of limit the taxes and things that they have to pay. Basically, they can just say that because of X, Y, and Z, we didn't actually profit this much. It's kind of sort of hard to explain, but basically they can make it look as though they didn't make as much money as they did, more or less, on a film, which is what happened with Star Wars. So because David Prowse agreed to collect some of the net worth of the film, but they sort of made it look like there wasn't really any. He didn't get paid. And he was really angry at that. He was angry about a lot of things. And there's actually a lot of really bad blood between David Prowse and George Lucas. And he's never invited to any of the reunions or anything like that. I think George Lucas has banned him from things like that because they've had too much conflict. So that's really interesting. Sorry guys, I wear contact lenses and this one's acting up today. There's a famous line. You know it and I know it. It's the line in which Darth Vader reveals to Luke that he is in fact Luke's father. Now, George Lucas did not want this information to even run the risk of being leaked to the public before the film was out. So, when David Prowse was filming the scene, they gave him a fake line. They tricked him. And the line was, instead of, I am your father, the line is, Obi-Wan killed your important plot point from David Prowse in order to keep it a secret. And he was supposedly very angry about that because he didn't find out until he actually saw the film when it was finished. So you can imagine if you thought you were surprised when you watched the movie, imagine how David Prowse felt. Because, I mean, come on, that's a really big deal. That's a pretty humongous plot point that he thought he knew. So he got his mind blown. So, you are, I'm sure, all familiar with the lovable, furry co-pilot companion of Han Solo, Chewbacca. Now, Chewbacca. I think Chewbacca's one of my favorite characters. Now, he has a very distinct sound that he makes, distinct vocal quality. And the way that the sound guys created that noise was by taking recordings of all these different animals. There was a lot of bear sounds. They used this one particular bear from a zoo, I think. But also, they used the sounds of walruses, badgers, camels, lions, I think. I think I read rabbits, maybe, but what sound does a rabbit make? I'm not really sure. Anyway, all these different sounds combined make up the sound that Chewie makes when he speaks. And I thought that was really interesting. Now, there is a scene in Empire Strikes Back where Han Solo and Chewbacca have to hide from an Imperial fleet. And they hide inside, or in an asteroid field, I believe. And in that scene, there's some debris that sort of flies by where they are. And if you look closely, you can see that two pieces of debris are actually not asteroid pieces, but an old tennis shoe and a potato. And that's just something that the special effects people threw in there. Either to be silly or because they were pissed off that they had to do so many retakes. I don't know. But it's there. Okay, here is the second film, The Empire Strikes Back. And here we have Yoda. And let's see, Han Solo and Princess Leia. There's R2-D2 and C-3PO and Chewie. And that's Luke. And he's riding a tauntaun. I have a joke for you. What is the internal temperature of a tauntaun? You give up. Lukewarm. That's one of my favorite jokes ever. If you don't get the joke, you just need to watch Empire and you'll get it. I'm sorry, that was bad. Okay. Forget that happened. Empire Strikes Back. I think it's in this film. I'm pretty sure in Empire. The line, there's a particular line. Princess Leia says to Han Solo, "I love you." And he responds, "I know." That line was not scripted. Han Solo's line was not scripted. It was ad-libbed by Harrison Ford, who just felt like that was the right thing to say. And he was dead on. It was perfect. So during the shooting of this film, I think some of it was shot in London. Carrie Fisher, who's Princess Leia, was staying at a house that I think she was renting it from Eric Idle of Monty Python. And Monty Python, they were shooting Life of Brian at the time. And one night, they had a little party, the Pythons. And Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford were there. And so were the Rolling Stones. And Eric Idle served this really strong, potent liquor of some kind. And it was something that he had been sort of passing out on the set of Life of Brian to the extras to sort of boost morale and keep everyone lively, I guess. Anyway, so he opened some up at this party, and they all drank and stayed up really late and just had fun. And the next day, Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford shot the scene where they arrive at the Cloud City. And Carrie Fisher has said that it was because of that liquor that they look so happy, I guess, in that scene. And Eric Idle has said that he's happy that he sort of had an influence on the film. common knowledge, but it's worth noting. George Lucas was really very heavily influenced when he was writing Star Wars. Very heavily influenced by Joseph Campbell, who wrote The Hero with 1,000 Faces, which is a book sort of about how every sort of mythological story kind of has the same layout, I guess, the same format. And it can be applied, the format can be applied to every major story in mythology and in religion, ever. And that's his theory, more or less. And George Lucas was reading some Joseph Campbell's work. He's reading that book, I believe, and it supposedly directly influenced his creation of Star Wars, and he said that before. It's just sort of the idea of the archetypal hero, I guess. So, if you are not an avid Star Wars fan, you're not super savvy with all the sort of Star Wars in jokes and things like that. One thing in particular that is helpful to know in conversation with Star Wars fans, if you ever want to have a conversation with Star Wars fans, one thing that's important to know is the controversy over who shot first between Han Solo and Greedo. Brief backstory. Han Solo owes Jabba the Hutt some money, I believe. And Greedo comes to bring Han Solo to Jabba. And they're having a little exchange, and then supposedly Han shoots Greedo. Now there was a re-release where some alterations were made to that scene, and it appeared, well, it didn't appear, it was made very clear that in the re-release, Greedo fired the first shot. This caused a lot of anger and controversy among fans. And the reason is that they did not like what they perceived as a change in the events. Now, when I emphasize what they perceived, because George Lucas has said that in the first version, everyone just sort of saw it wrong, and Greedo really did shoot first. But, yeah, a lot of fans don't agree. They don't believe that. I'm not here to tell you what it is. I'm just telling you the story. Anyway, the reason that this caused so much frustration and controversy among the fans was that they felt that a change like that actually sort of altered Han Solo's character journey overall, because for him to shoot first, as they believe that he did in the first version, showed that he sort of lacked a certain amount of moral fiber, I guess, and was willing to just shoot on a dime, just like that. Which made his evolution into kind of a more morally sort of upright character. It made that evolution more impactful, I guess. So, by changing that event and sort of making him into a character that wouldn't fire the first shot, the fans felt that they sort of lost that character development of Han Solo. Because he just, in that version, he just sort of starts out as an okay guy and ends up an okay guy. Whereas in the original version, he starts out as kind of a man with questionable ethics, and then becomes a very good man. So, just to be on the safe side, if you are in a conversation with hardcore Star Wars fans and you are not one yourself, I would go ahead and just agree that Han shot first. You'll save yourself a big argument. So that's that long spiel. Moving on. Oh. There's Lando Calrissian, or Billy D. Williams. Okay, so in Empire, we see a hologram of the Emperor. And he looks really scary and horrible. That is actually a woman. Kind of an older woman with a lot of prosthetic makeup on. And a hood on her head. But what's most interesting about that is that over her face, over her eyes, they superimposed an image of the eyes of a chimpanzee to make her look, or to make the Emperor look kind of non-human, I guess, and frankly terrifying. And of course, the woman's voice wasn't used. It was the voice of, oh, I forgot his name. Well, anyway, the actor who did the voice. It was a man. So, this year, something kind of cool happened. just in July, I believe, very recently. The first Star Wars film was dubbed in Navajo, in the Navajo language, making it the first major motion picture ever to be translated into a Native American language. And that's really cool. I'd be interested to watch a little bit of it because I'm interested to know what, I guess, sort of how they translated some of the words, some of the terms, like Death Star. I wonder how that translates to Navajo. Be really interesting to know that. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about this one. Return of the Jedi. This one's heavier. Does it have 2 discs in it? Oh, it has 2 discs, that's why. Okay, so there's Vader. And Luke. Wait, no, Luke. Han Solo. Leia in her famous slave gold bikini. That's Wicket, the Ewok. Lando Calrissian. This guy's name is Bib Fortuna, I think. And then, who's that? Oh, there's Jabba. Who else? I think this guy is called a Gamorrean or something like that. He's a big guard. Pretty sure he works for Jabba. Or does he? And right there is really small. I don't know if you can see it as a Jawa. I forget anybody. No. So in so this is Return of the Jedi. The original title for this was going to be Revenge of the Jedi. But they felt that that wasn't a very good title because Jedi actually weren't vengeful people. So they changed it to Return of the Jedi. But there was a poster, a film poster created with the title Revenge of the Jedi on it that features Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader dueling with their lightsabers. But what's interesting about it, and strange, and maybe it was a mistake, I'm not sure, is those posters. In those posters, Luke has a red lightsaber and Vader has a blue one, which doesn't really make sense because Luke's lightsaber is blue. Well, most of the time it's blue, and Vader's is red. So it's kind of swapped. But anyway, those posters are pretty rare and worth quite a bit of money. I checked on eBay to see what one might go for, and it was in the $1,000 range. So it's definitely a valuable collector's item. Anthony Daniels, who played C-3PO, the little droid. Well, he and Kenneth Baker, the man who played R2-D2. Kenny Baker, maybe. Don't hate me if you're not remembering. Oh, maybe it's on here. It's not. No, it's not on here either. Whatever. Well, they were in little suits, obviously, which got very, very hot because they were in the Tunisian desert shooting. And it was extremely hot. Now, in order to help them out, they had cool air kind of piped into their suits, and they were, well, made sure to stay really hydrated. But Anthony Daniels actually very frequently passed out from heat stroke while shooting in that costume. I'd say that's pretty tough working conditions. Now for this film, Return of the Jedi. It was the third film in the trilogy, in the series. And so they decided during filming to when they were filming, give it sort of a fake name, give it a fake title. The reason for that is that they obviously wanted to eliminate the possibility of spoilers and whatnot, but also one major problem when you were filming a really popular movie. One issue that they would have to deal with was price gouging, where they would be charged higher for things that they needed in that city, basically, just because they had a big name. So to avoid that, they were very secretive, and they were operating under the working title Blue Harvest, and that was sort of the secret code name for Return of the Jedi. And they went all out with it. They created a movie logo with all kinds of memorabilia, like hats and I think t-shirts and stationery. They had some stationery. But what was really funny is that the movie logo, the typeface that they used, was the same as the Star Wars typeface. If you've never seen the Blue Harvest logo, you should look it up because it looks a lot like Star Wars. And they fooled most everybody. Few people figured it out, but pretty much everyone was fooled. Now, I don't know if you are familiar with the band Toto. They're probably most popular, most famous for their song Africa, which is a great song. I love Toto. What I did not know is that the lead singer of Toto, Joseph Williams is the son of John Williams, the composer, who composed the score for Star Wars, all Star Wars movies. And the special song that the Ewoks sing in Celebration, the Ewok Celebration song, it goes like, yup, yup, something, something. The Ewok Celebration song was written by Joseph Williams, the lead singer of Toto. Did you know that? I want to show you something. Where'd it go? There are these big, sort of walking machine things are there. They look like big mechanical dog turtles. I don't know. I've never, I don't know what to compare them to, but they're called AT-ATs. They're right here. See what I mean? It kind of looks like a turtle. Dog turtle. Well, when they were doing these, well, first of all, they were, George Lucas has said that they were inspired by the walking machines in H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. But in order to get the movement right, they actually studied the walking patterns of elephants so that they could get kind of a more accurate stride on those things. I think that's really cool. I didn't know that. I guess everything has walking patterns, but I never really thought about it. That's interesting. So the next time you're watching Empire, I think probably they're in Empire, pay attention to the AT-ATs and see if they remind you of elephants. Irvin Kershner, who directed, did you direct all of them? I'm actually not positive. Let's see. No, oh no, that's right. Richard Markin did Jedi. Yeah, Irvin Kershner did Empire. And no. Yeah. I don't think he did. New Hope. Okay. Anyway, Irvin Kershner, who directed Empire. Well, first of all, Frank Oz is the man who, one of the men, that is, who puppeteered Yoda. Who's a little green Jedi Master. Now, Frank Oz also provided the voice of Yoda. So, in Yoda's scenes, Frank Oz was doing such a convincing job of bringing Yoda to life that Irvin Kershner, the director, would sometimes, often actually, he would slip up and accidentally, when he was directing, he would give a direction, an instruction of some kind to Yoda, to the Yoda puppet. Like he would talk to Yoda. so immersed in the characters that he began to actually feel like you could interact with them, that they were really there. I love that. So, in the I'm sorry, I can't remember which movie it's in, but I believe C-3PO comes across a skeleton of a big Tatooine creature. And the skeleton belongs to what's called a greater great dragon. Big, long, really long skeleton out in the desert of this dragon thing. And turns out after they finished shooting, they just left it there. They left the big artificial skeleton out there in the desert. And then many years later, for the filming of Attack of the Clones, the crew visited that same site, and the skeleton was still there, hadn't moved. I think that's amazing. It seems like someone would have stolen it or something, or taken it. I don't know. Okay. Very excited to share this little piece of trivia with you, because I think it's hysterical. So, many of you may know that Han Solo was originally supposed to be an African American man, or portrayed by an African American man. So, Billy D. Williams, who ended up playing Lando Calrissian, was originally supposed to be Han Solo. But then they decided they wanted him to be white. So, I want to tell you though, the list of actors who were up for the part of Han Solo, or who were being considered. We had Kurt Russell, Christopher Walken. By the way, as I'm going down this list, I want you to imagine each of these people as Han Solo. Just do that for me, okay? So, Kurt Russell, Christopher Walken, Jack Nicholson, Al Pacino, Chevy Chase, Steve Martin, Bill Murray, Sylvester Stallone, and John Travolta. Imagine for me, for a moment if you will, Bill Murray, or Chevy Chase even, as Han Solo. Unbelievable. I don't know, it's such hilarious to picture. Thank goodness it was Harrison Ford. He's perfect. Lucas sort of bent some rules a little bit. According to the Writers Guild, or something. I think maybe right. Screenwriters Guild. Writers Guild. There's a rule that says that filmmakers have to they have to run credits at the beginning of the film. But George Lucas didn't do that, obviously, for A New Hope, because there's that dramatic, a long, long time ago, the scrolling, you know. So he kind of broke that rule, and they let it slide. Mostly because they didn't really think the film would do very well, so it didn't really matter. But of course, it did. And so George Lucas kept doing things that way with the scrolling message, and not doing the credits at the beginning of the film, just doing them all at the end. The Writers Guild did not approve of that. It wasn't good, so they actually tried to pull Empire from being released. They failed, of course, didn't work. And then they fined George Lucas, and they also tried to fine what's his name? The director of the film. Irvin Kershner, that's it. Sorry, blanked out. They tried to fine him as well. But George Lucas took on the fines. He paid them all himself. And he paid nearly $250,000 in fines for that. A little misstep. And then after that, he dropped his membership in the Writers Guild, in the Directors Guild, and the Motion Picture Association of America. So I believe he's no longer a member of those organizations. Now I have to mention, and I'm sorry to those of you who just want to forget, I have to mention the Star Wars Holiday Special, which came out in 1978 after the release of the first film. And I haven't seen it, to tell you the truth. But I think it focuses a lot on Chewbacca and his family during the holidays. I don't know. Don't ask me. But the reason I have to bring it up is because that holiday special was our first introduction to the well-known bounty hunter Boba Fett. And that's where he first appears. So earlier I mentioned Frank Oz, who did the voice and puppeteering for Yoda. George Lucas was so taken with Frank Oz's performance and portrayal of Yoda that he ran an ad campaign, spent thousands of dollars on it to try and sort of drum up support, I guess, to get Frank Oz nominated for an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. And it didn't work because I guess the Academy doesn't see puppeteering as acting. But I love that George Lucas tried to do that. I think it's director talking to Yoda because he thought he was real. I mean, that's just a testament to how good Frank Oz was and what he did. So, as many of you know, Han Solo was, at one point, frozen in carbonite. One of the reasons that this took place, I don't think it's the only reason, but it is at least one of the reasons, was that it was not definite whether or not Han Solo would be back for the final film. Because Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill signed for a 3-film deal. They signed on to do 3 films, but Harrison Ford did not. So they just weren't sure if he was going to do the last one. And he even requested that Han Solo be killed off for some reason, because he felt like the character had sort of done what he needed to do. Maybe Harrison Ford just didn't want to do any more Star Wars movies. But George Lucas said, "Nope. I'm keeping you alive." This last thing I'm going to tell you is very interesting. And I'm still not sure what I think about it or how I feel. And you can tell me what you think. So George Lucas has gotten a great deal of criticism and outrage over a lot of things. Alterations that he made to the original trilogy, and especially for the new trilogy. And yeah, he's gotten a lot of criticism for that. And it's interesting. In response to all of that criticism, he said that he believes that the fans, the hardcore fans, those of you who love and adore the original trilogy, he says that those fans fell in love with the wrong trilogy. And that's an exact quote, I think. And it's really interesting. I think it's very telling also. Because I think a lot of people wonder why did you make something that was so good? Why did you take something pretty close to perfect and ruin it? Which is what many people feel that he did. And they want to know why. What were you thinking? And I think that quote says a lot. My personal theory about why he sort of made the choices that he made is that when he did the first trilogy, he just didn't have the resources available to create exactly what he wanted to create. With effects, and he didn't have the budget. everything he wanted to do. So, with the new trilogy and all the stuff in between, I think maybe he was just trying to create what he always wished he could, especially with some of the alterations he made in the re-releases. I think he probably was just never truly satisfied with the original trilogy. But he gets a lot of hate and a lot of anger from his fans. I kind of feel for him, because it's certainly not easy to create what he did. I mean, to some people this is like, it really is the greatest story ever. To a lot of people. And he did that. He's responsible for it. But he gets a lot of criticism. I feel kind of bad for him. Anyway, those are just my thoughts on the subject. I'd be interested to know what you think about what he said about how fans fell in love with the wrong trilogy. It's really interesting to me. So feel free to comment your thoughts on that. I'm very interested to know how others feel about it. Well, my friends, I truly hope that you have enjoyed this week's Time Travel Tuesday. And that you have learned some new, interesting facts about Star Wars. I learned quite a lot. Don't forget to comment below, not with your votes this time, but your best guess as to what I'll be talking about next week. I'll be seeing you guys again